Good afternoon, everybody. This is your girl Cake Mix. What's up, my little cakes and my big cakes and all the cakes around the world? Today I'm coming to you from my bed at the moment. I had to go have a knee injection today. As you recall, I might have been telling you about me having some problems with my knee. So I had to go have a knee injection. I have been to the doctor. This is my third day this week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday being at some kind of doctor's office. But anyway, I'm not complaining, but I have to rest my knee, and I guess the numbness has worn off. Where I got the injection, it is hurting. So I'm in bed. But anyway, I wanted to give you part 3 of my story of my cancer journey, or the cancer journey, because it's not mine. It's just visiting. I don't claim that. I claim that I will be healed in Jesus' name. But anyway, part 3, which will bring us to my current situation. So after being in remission for 5 years, October of 2019, actually September of 2019, I was getting ready to go to a 70s party for one of my friend's sister. I started having this pain in my back, like under my rib cage, and it was kind of bad, but it just felt like I needed to pop something, or if I might have been having trap gas or something like that. I was coming from my car. So I came inside. I drank a Topo Chico, which is like a mineral water. People use it for hangovers and different things. I drank that and I started to burp, and I took a half of a pain pill. And I felt better. It was just kind of like still kind of sore, but not like hurting. So I went on to the party, had a good time. Everything was fine. Came home, fine. No, I wasn't fine. I was fine. I was okay. But that Sunday morning, they're cutting my grass. Sorry. That Sunday morning, when I got up, I was in pain. Like, it was hurting, but not like bad, but it was kind of hurting. So I went to church. Came back from church. It was still kind of hurting, hurting. Monday, it kind of had like slowed down a little bit, So I had a friend come over that was helping. He was fixing my truck. So I was sitting out there talking to him, and we're just talking for a couple of hours, while he was working on my car. He left. I came inside, and the pain just got excruciating. Like in my back, under my, like in my rib cage, like it was hurting so bad. Like I was almost in tears. I was starting to panic. Like I was really scared. Like it was hurting so bad. So I called my mother. I said, Mama, I said, please. I said, I need to go to the doctor. I don't know what to do. I'm hurting. I told her about the pain. Can you please come over? She was here like that. By the time she came, I had threw on some tights and a shirt. And at the time, I was wearing my hair cut short. So I kind of like, combed it out. And she took me to the doctor's office. I had called them also to let them know what was going on. They told me I could come in as a walk-in. So I go to my doctor. I tell them what's happening. So it was hurting so bad, like the pain had moved down to like my right rib cage, all up under there, like the whole rib cage, under the breastbone, like in my back, and under like the bone right there was just hurting. So she was touching it, it was hurting. She said she thought that I might have had a bruised rib or something like that. So they give me an x-ray. So she told me to take Aleve, gabapentin, which is like a nerve pain medicine, hydrocodone, and muscle relaxers to help with pain. And the other one was supposed to help with inflammation. And the other one was supposed to help if it was nerve damage, because I was in so much pain. Okay, so I come home. No, we're going home. So I needed to stop at the grocery store to get some Aleve because I didn't have any. but I'm just in pain. So my mother and my youngest daughter, they go in the store to get their leave and to get something else. So while they're in the store, the pain got worse. But it felt like it had moved to like my chest, and it was just hurting, y'all. I was like all down in the seat, like, and I just started like taking like breathing, like, deep breaths. And I started praying and begging the Lord for some relief. I was like, Lord, please, please give me some relief, please. Like, I was scared. I couldn't even talk. Those are the only words that would come out of my mouth. I wanted to call 911 right there in the parking lot of the grocery store. Our grocery store here in Texas, Corpus, is HEB. So I wanted to call the ambulance like right there, but I could not even talk. Tears was just rolling down my face. And I just kept saying, Lord, please give me some relief. Please, Lord. Please, Lord. And when I tell y'all, he did. Like, the pain started to kind of subside. So I had some pain pills with me. I took a half of a Lortab. So, and there was some other pills I needed. My cousin had some. She lived around the corner from me. So my mom got in the car. I'm telling her, like, I was panicking. Like, I was like, I need to go to the hospital. Like, this is hurting me so bad. Like, I don't know what to do. She was like, well, the doctor said. And I was like, okay. She's like, you just need to go home and lay down. But that's just, I don't like doing that. People always want to just lay down when something is really hurting them. But you need to follow your first mind. If your first mind is telling you to go to the emergency room or go to the doctor, that's what you need to do. Because a lot of people lay down and never get up. Anyway, so by the time we got to my cousin's house and got the medicine from her, I was feeling a little bit better, but I still, like, it's like my energy was gone. It was like I was still in pain, but I was also still kind of, I don't know, I was just feeling some type of way. So I came home, and the guy that I was talking to or dating or whatever at the time, he had came over, and I told him what happened. He came, he gave me my medicine. Him and my mom, they made me some soup, and I laid here, and I was in pain, but not as bad as it was. He sat here, at the foot of my bed, and, gave me my medicine stuff, and he sit here till like late that night, so I actually was able to fall asleep, of course, from taking all that medicine. So the next couple of days, I just kind of like laid around and, kept taking the medicine and just was waiting for them to call me about the x-rays. I think this was like on a Tuesday, I want to say. So by Thursday, they called me and told me that they seen some, what does she call it? Nodules on my lungs. That's what they called it. And I was like, man. And it was like, well, we need to make an appointment for you to come in to talk to your doctor. So I want to say that Monday. But I chose not to let it worry me. Like, I didn't lose sleep. I wasn't, I was just all over the place because I trust God. And my mom, too, she was like, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just see what's going on. But, whatever it is, God got you. And I was like, yes, ma'am. So I think that, I want to say that Monday we went to the doctor. And he told me that, yes, we have found. Mind you, the doctor I had at this time was an asshole, y'all. I'm just going to say it. My PCP was, ugh. Anyway, he was like, well, I think you have, that your cancer might have came back. It's like, okay. He's like, but we don't know. We have to do a biopsy. This and that. He said, but you have some tumors on both lungs. He said the biggest one is in your right lung, and it's the size of a lemon. And I just started praying. It's like, okay. So they set me up to go get I think I had to go get a CAT scan. Then I had to go get a biopsy. So I guess a couple of weeks later, or a week later or so, I went to the hospital. Me, my mom, and my cousin. Her name is Barbara. We're very, 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 very close, but she's way older than me. But we act like sisters or like close cousins. Like, we just like that. So they took me to the hospital early in the morning. I guess I was a little nervous because my blood pressure was up a little bit, but I took my medicine, got it normal. So they were able to do the biopsy. They had to go into my chest, like in between my breasts, like right by my heart, but they used like a sonogram thing to be able to see to make sure that they didn't touch my heart. So they had to take tissue to test it. Y'all, when I tell y'all it took like about 2 weeks for me to get the results because they weren't sure. Like, they was trying to compare the results to my old results from when I had the cancer before. So, but in the meantime, I just decided to trust God, live my regular life, was still working, doing hair. And I want to say 2 days before Thanksgiving, it was on the, because it was on a Tuesday, I had a client here doing her hair. And I got a call from the doctor's office to telling me that it was positive for cancer, that I had cancer in my lungs. It felt like somebody had punched me in my chest, like for real. I just like, for a few minutes, and then I stopped. I was like, no, God is good. If he healed me once, he can heal me again. My son came downstairs. You know, I told him what happened. The one I didn't want to tell is my baby, my youngest daughter at the time. I want to say she was 14, getting ready to turn 15. And the first time I went through it, she was 8. And me and her are so super close. I'm close with all my kids, but my baby does everything with us. With me, it was always me, her, my mom, or her, my mom, and me and her. Like, I'm really close. We're like a close family. I didn't want to tell her, but somehow she overheard me. After I got through my client's hair, we went to the neighborhood where my family lives. And I had already told my auntie, one of my aunts, on the phone. And I think that's how she overheard me. And she just bust out into tears, y'all. Like, it broke my heart. You know, it breaks my heart to hear any of my kids cry, you know. But any of them. It breaks my heart to hear my kids cry. Especially when I know that they're concerned about me. So my aunt, you know, grabbed her, consoled her, and I explained to her, like, you know, we've been through this before. We know what to expect. I know it hurts, but if, you know, we got through it before, we'll get through it again. And I hugged her. I told her, yeah, I love you. Whatever, you know, just the things you do with somebody when you're trying to comfort somebody that you love. And that is what hurt me the most, to see my baby hurt, you know. So when I left there, like, I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go home. I just didn't want to be in my room by myself. Like, I didn't know what to do, basically, but I was trying to hold it together for my family. So I go down the street, which I have aunts that live, like, it's a house between them. So I went to my other auntie's house. We call her Aunt Wiggy. I went to her house, and we were sitting there at the table. I'm sitting at the end of the table, and her and my cousin at the other end. I'm just sitting there, but I'm, like, really quiet. So my other aunt called me on the phone, my Auntie Ann. I'm close to her, too. I'm close to all my aunties. And she's asked me, was I okay? And I just burst into tears, y'all. Like, burst into tears and started crying. And my Aunt Wiggy, she was like, what's wrong? She had a real deep voice. What's wrong, Isha? What's wrong? And I was like, you know, I couldn't stop crying, so she snatched the phone from me. And my auntie told her what happened. And then my cousin, she was like, I was wondering why you was sitting there so quiet. And my auntie was like, oh, shit, you gonna be all right. You know, we got this. He took care of you. God is gonna take care of you. I said, yes, ma'am, you know, but I'm still just crying. And eventually I got it together. You know, she cracked a couple of jokes. I started laughing. I came on home. So Thanksgiving, we all got together. My daughter came down here from Dallas, and my sons, and like my whole family was there. My mom, everybody, because my aunt used to have like an event center, and we all gathered there for Thanksgiving. I cooked I cooked a turkey, and, you know, we had all our like potluck, and it was, you know, it's family or whatever. I didn't tell anybody that didn't already know anything. I went, fixed my hair, did my makeup, and, you know, went on business as usual until it was time for me to start taking chemo, which is like a week later. But I just still did my thing or whatever with my family and, you know, my friends or whatever. Okay, December 5th or somewhere around there, our first chemo treatment. But this time, I had to do inpatient, where I had to stay in the hospital anywhere from 4 to 6 days, just depending on what time I got there, because you would have to wait. Like, you would have to have your bag packed, and wait for them to call you to tell you they had a bed for you on the cancer floor. So that's what I did, and they just called me out the blue. That day I wasn't ready because I didn't have my stuff situated with my kids. It's my first time, so I think I ended up going the next day on a Tuesday. So I went, took my first treatment. I think I stayed in the hospital for like 4 days, five days, the longest 5 days, because I wasn't used to that, being away from my kids, and but they would come visit. I had a lot of visitors. Matter of fact, I stayed 5 days because the first day I went, they had to put my new Metaport in right here in my chest. I don't know if you can see it good. So I went into surgery, came out to a room full of people. They had put my port in, already hooked it up for me to start my chemo. By day 5, which is the morning I get out, I'm already like throwing up and it's horrible. But with that chemo, it's like once I got out the hospital after a couple of days, I will be okay. Pretty much, I'll take my herbal medicine and I'll be okay. So everything's, going okay. And I will go in every 21 days to take my treatment. So I got out for that treatment. Christmas comes. I was just so tired and drained, and I didn't understand it because it had already been a while since I had my chemo, I did my hair like cute, did my makeup, but even I was like, I got to fight through. I got to push through. It's Christmas, So I did put on my little red shirt. We went to my aunt's house for Christmas. I didn't even cook anything. I was so tired. Got to my aunt's house. I parked across the street. I went to walk across the street. By the time I got across the street to her house, I could not breathe. I was like, well, I have asthma, so I'm like, okay, let me hit. I had left my asthma pump because I hadn't had any problems in a while. So she gave me one. I hit it. Like I was like, okay, but I just didn't feel right. We sitting at the table, and I like to sing. My family, we sing all the time. My best friend Johnny, he's there. He's sitting next to me. But I kept like getting out of breath, even just to walk to the bathroom, which was probably like 20 steps. I would get out of breath to where my daughter would have to go with me to the bathroom. The day after Christmas, I laid in the bed all day because anytime that I would get up to do anything, even to take a shower, I would be out of breath. The day after that, I called my mom. I said, I need to go to the hospital. I said, because this is not normal. I can't breathe. My heart is beating fast. Like something's wrong. So she comes over here. Y'all, I couldn't even make it to take a shower. I had took one at night, but I wanted to take another one. I was like, take a bath before I go to the hospital. I was so out of breath and so couldn't breathe and just so tired that I couldn't even get in the shower. So my mom, she's like, oh, well, let's just lay down. No, I called the ambulance while she was in there in the living room. The ambulance came when they got here. My oxygen was at 86 or 84. They were surprised that I hadn't passed out. So they hooked me up to the oxygen, took my vitals and all that, rushed me to the hospital. Got to the hospital. They took me right in, did a CAT scan. I had blood clots in my lungs. Come to find out, the chemo medicine that I was on makes your blood sticky. So I have blood clots in both lungs. They sent me to ICU. They put me on aspirin, giving me Lovenox injections in my stomach. I wanted twice a day and taking aspirin and all this. I stayed in ICU for 4 days, 3 or 4 days. Then I was in a regular room for like another 3 days. I was in the hospital on New Year's. I remember hearing the firecrackers and all that and being there by myself. And it was my other best friend, Amber's birthday. And I was just so sad. But she called me at the hospital on her birthday. And she was like, she's like, I can't even enjoy my birthday because since we were in high school, I have spent every birthday with her every year. Whether it was at church, the club, whatever. And she was just so sad. She said she couldn't enjoy her birthday without me. And so I was sad about it too. But, it was what it was. So I get out the hospital on oxygen. I had to get physical therapy in the hospital because they wanted to make sure that I would be able to walk on my own. They had occupational therapy, like all this different stuff while I was in the hospital. But I didn't need none of that. I just needed the oxygen. So when I got out of the hospital, I went to stay with my mother. Had this big ass oxygen, big old oxygen tank, and it had this long cord. And the furthest I can get was from her room where I was staying to the bathroom to the living room. Like barely the beginning of the living room. I couldn't get in the kitchen. I couldn't go outside. But then they bought me some portables. But I still, was just there. So I ended up having to go back in the hospital like a week later for my treatments. And at that time, my mom started having some health issues. So we in 2020 now. We in January 2020. And my mom started having some issues. My mom's birthday, January the 6th. She went in the hospital January the 5th. I went in the hospital January the 7th. So we both in the hospital. I'm there for chemo. She's there because she got an infection in her stomach where they were going to put a port in for her to do at-home dialysis. Mind you, my mom had been healthy her whole life. All of a sudden, she had acute kidney failure due to some medications, supposedly. And the nurses that was doing her wound care left. She ended up getting an infection. So me and her both at the hospital, but on two different. We on the same floor too, but she was on one side and I was on the other side on the chemo side. So she got my aunt to push her from her room to my room, and she stayed in there all day. The physical therapy people came looking for her. They had to come to my room, and everything they need, they had to come to our room. We were both in there just chilling. My daughter was there, and then finally she had to end up going back to her room. So I stayed there for my days, took my chemo, got out. I think a couple of days later she got out. And for months, it was just back and forth, me and her in the hospital. Just with the kidneys and all this other stuff just started happening so fast. Well, February, the day before Valentine's Day, my oldest daughter, she's 23 now, but I think she was getting ready to turn 21. Yeah, she comes and tells us that she was going to have a baby. She surprised us, gave us these little boxes with pacifiers in them for me and my mom. Because their dad is deceased. So it was always me and my mom since she was 14 raising them. So, I was happy about it. I cried and this and that. And, but my mom, she just like after that never, it's something one thing after the other. So at one point we were both in the hospital again. But this time, my mom went in the hospital. We went to go visit her, and she was just like talking all out off the side of her head. She was speaking in Spanish. It was just crazy. Like it wasn't her. It was like her body, but if you look in her eyes, it was like somebody else, like she wasn't there, and that was so hurtful to see my mom, and she didn't even recognize me. And so the next day they were taking her in to do surgery on her. I don't remember what the surgery for. It was just so much, and a lot of stuff is a blur. But so we went with her, me and my daughter,